Hello, I'm old. And you know, I've been watching anime for a very long time at this point, and even after all these years, I still have a soft spot in my heart for Sailor Moon. It cannot be overstated how important this show was to me or my development as an anime fan.
Now, Sailor Moon wasn't my first introduction to anime. No, that honor goes to Unico Maho no Shimae, which is awesome. Seriously, Discotek has a Blu-ray out now, you guys should totally check it out. But it was the former that really hooked me in a major way. Especially at that age, I was drawn to hot anime girls and skin-tight seirafuku. But of course, it was the magical girl goodness that kept me watching.
You know, as a longtime anime fan and an avid gamer, I've been importing for a while now. This began because I wanted to play anime licensed games that hadn't come out in America. One of the first that I ever owned was Bishoujo Senshi Sailor Moon Supers for the original PlayStation.
Released on March 8, 1996 and developed by Angel Studios, Bishoujo Senshi Sailor Moon Supers Shin Shuyaku Soldatsu is a one-on-one 2D fighting game in the same vein as the original Street Fighter series. Up to that point, I'd spent a lot of time with some really high-quality PS1 games. The only licensed game I had at the time was Ghost in the Shell, and that's actually a pretty damn good action game. I'll talk about it sometime down the line. Regarding Sailor Moon, however...
How does it fare? Well...
As our opening begins, we see an oddly pink moon where the Sailor Senshi are inexplicably trapped in a mass of purple thorns. Somehow, they've also been turned to stone. Just go with it. But then the thorny thing explodes, freeing them all, and color rushes back to their faces and bodies. An incredibly bland rendition of Moonlight Densetsu plays in the background. Yeah, way to spring for that Casio keyboard, guys. Everyone stiffly and awkwardly perform their various signature attacks. Yeah, that looks right. Suddenly and without warning, they're attacked by that 3D modeling project I did in high school. But Sailor Moon is quick to react, blocking the attack. She then blows it away with twinkly particle effects. We're given a shot of the Earth, which is then covered by a no longer pink moon. And the cast slides into place for their final plastic pose. I only bring this up because this opening is a good indicator of what's to come. Yeah, this game puts its best foot forward. And while it's not the worst example of PS1 FMV that we've ever seen, today it kinda looks like hot buttered ass.
So from there we... Stop it.
From there, we're brought to a pretty basic title screen, where Usagi shrilly asks us to pick our mode of play. You have your story mode, versus mode, practice, and options. It does not get any more bare bones than this. We'll be focusing on story mode. So, if you had any lingering doubts of whether or not the developers gave a crap, just look at this. It consists of scrolling text on a static background while some generic music plays behind it all. You know, having this as pre-rendered video just serves to decrease the resolution, which makes it harder to read, and it lowers the overall sound quality. Totally not a waste of FMV. The general gist of the story is that everyone's sick of Usagi's shortcomings as their leader, and they want to have a tournament to determine who will take over the role. And while this is a fairly innocent premise, it makes no sense in terms of the overall story of the show, and she's done a pretty damn good job up to this point. And as you'll see in a moment, having this story will limit your options in story mode. So honestly, I'd rather they not have it at all. Because of the way they set the story, only the inner Senshi are playable. That means no Saturn silence glaving people in the face. And that is lame. Now, that's not to say that they're completely unplayable, but only in versus and training mode. But fine, I'll deal with what I've been given, and Sailor Mercury's always been my favorite anyway, so Ami it is. We're greeted with another screen, and this time it allows us to choose the strengths of our chosen fighter's various skills. You have punch, kick, throw, defense, life bar, ochame, we'll come back to that, special move, and super special move. The best and fastest way to explain ochame, I guess, is sort of a cute playfulness, and I know that's a really oversimplified explanation, but I don't want to get into a Japanese lesson right now, and even the manual refuses to give you a straight answer on what the hell it's supposed to do. I'll get more into its effects in a minute. The number of points that you can allocate depends on the difficulty. It's all pretty straightforward, with the obvious exception. So finally it's time to fight. Do I even really need to say anything? The footage here should speak for itself. The character sprites are laughable, the animations are crap, and frankly, you'd get a more convincing fight by smacking plastic figures together. And for as bad as it looks, believe me, it plays even worse. Every move is stiff, like your character's arthritic. It's really hard to convey with video how awkward and unresponsive these controls are. At least there's this little back jump move that might be more useful in a better game. Nothing here feels right or even remotely fluid. Oh, and you remember that cryptic Ochame stat I was talking about earlier? Well, based on my testing, it seems the higher you set it, the more likely it is that your character will randomly do this little taunt move in the middle of battle. This takes all control away from the player and leaves you completely fucking helpless. Thanks, guys. But the absolute worst offender in this game is the jumping. I know it's kinda hard to tell from this footage, but please, let me explain. When jumping, you can either go straight up or at an angle. Once you've made your choice, there is no deviating from that path until you land. Think of it kinda like the original NES Castlevania games, except made even more frustrating due to the unresponsive controls. Everything in this game runs at a snail's pace. Even the announcers seem to drift off between each line.
そこまで
Yep. Alright.
勝者
Okay. Mm-hmm.
セーラーマーキュリー
And can someone please tell them what KO means? Eventually, you'll gain access to your super special attacks. This will happen either when you have your health decreased to a certain point, or it will unlock for both characters simultaneously when you have about 20 seconds left in the match. At that point, both characters are free to spam it at will, and believe me when I say that the computer has absolutely no qualms with doing that. And is it me, or is Chibi Moon just like really weirdly short in this game? So, you fight your way through all the inner senshi when the outers decide to get in on the action. And look, just what I wanted, another lame-ass scrolling text FMV. Boo! And just like that, it's over. No final fight against a stronger opponent, you beat the last outer, and you win! And yeah, the ending credits are just as worthless as you would expect. Although, the title screen does change depending on which character you beat the game with, and that's kinda cool.
美少女戦士セーラーマーキュリースーパーズお好きなモードを選んでね
But at that point, it's just too little too late, and there's nothing that can wash the bitter taste of disappointment out of your mouth.
You know, I guess it's technically not broken, but it's not a whole lot of fun to play either. Even in the two-player versus mode, which is the lifeblood of any fighting game, there's no sense of accomplishment when either player wins.
And what makes matters worse is that the Super Famicom games that came directly before it, they're actually pretty good. These games are fast and fluid, they actually feel like competent 2D fighters. Supposedly they were even made by the same development team, so what happened? And oddly enough, the PlayStation game is supposed to be a 5th gen update to these Super Famicom games. And apparently people agreed, because just 8 months later they produced a semi-overhauled port for the Sega Saturn. Released on November 29th, 1996 as Bishoujo Senshi Sailor Moon Super's Various Emotion.
Sure, why not?
Minimal changes were made to the Sega Saturn version, but just enough to make it feel a little bit better than the PS1 original. Right off the bat, you'll notice that the opening title screen's been overhauled quite a bit. They've even added a few options. But the real surprise begins when you start story mode. They animated the opening cutscene. It looks like it's pulled right from the anime. Okay, the story's still stupid, but it's coming from the original voice actresses, so at least it feels a bit more legitimate. What is this feeling? Is this optimism? Although the character models remain unchanged from the last game, everything's been sped up significantly, and it feels a lot smoother overall. They even added a forward version of that little back jump from the PlayStation game. It's nice, and while you're still unable to change your course mid-jump due to the smoother controls and the Saturn's D-pad, it really doesn't feel like as much of a problem this time around. One odd quirk from the Saturn version is that the quality of the voice clips seems wildly inconsistent.
月に変わってあしゃきゃイエーイ勝っちゃった
At least the announcers have been given a much-needed dose of caffeine.
第1回戦始めて
And when they call a KO, at least you stay on the ground.
KO ウィナーセーラージュピター
One thing to note about this version is that the AI has been tweaked significantly. Many of you may have already noticed that Jupiter is kicking my ass. They're fucking relentless, and try as I might, I can't seem to beat the first character in story mode.
ほらほら
そこまで勝者セーラージュピタ
Hey, I'm fully willing to admit that maybe I just suck. But, you know, let's try Mars. Maybe I'll be able to...
It's better? Don't get me wrong, it's not a good game, but, you know, it plays a little bit better, it controls a lot better. You get some friends together, you might be able to enjoy yourself. Maybe. And you know, that brings me to the last game that I'm talking about today, which is actually the first Sailor Moon game released for the 5th generation of consoles. Simply titled Bishoujo Senshi Sailor Moon Super. It's for the 3DO. Yeah, that 3DO.
I mean, if the PlayStation and Sega Saturn couldn't squeeze out a good Sailor Moon game, what chance does this sad and forgotten little system have? You know, so far, this isn't too bad. It has what I consider to be the best version of the opening theme. Some of the animations are quite nice. There's still some problems, like the 3D character models.
What is wrong with your knees?
And I swear to you, this mouth will haunt my nightmares. So we get to the main menu, and aw, that's kinda cute. Luna and Artemis, they're the cursor. This one does away with the story mode entirely in favor of a more arcade-esque single-player option. The only drawback I see, however, is that Saturn is completely unplayable in this game, in any mode. This problem is quickly and easily forgotten, however, because... well, just look at this! I mean, what a difference! This is everything that the PlayStation and Saturn games should have been, but weren't. The animations are a little bit choppy, but the character sprites look fantastic. Overall, it just seems like a lot more care was put into the presentation of this game. You know, they even do that thing where they yell lovely when they get hit with the moon spiral heart attack. That's awesome. The backgrounds are all really well detailed. I mean, they tend to pixelate a bit, but that's because they're designed to scale with the camera. It's a nice effect. Not only does it look good, but it plays like a dream. Everything's responsive, and the special attacks are easy to pull off. For the super specials, this time around you have a meter that fills consistently throughout the battle. It also gains a little bit with each successful hit that you land. Once it's full, you'll be able to do your super special move, which then drains the entire meter. It's sufficiently fast-paced, and it doesn't allow you to spam your super specials like the other two games. And before it's all over, you get one final battle with Super Sailor Moon, as well as instructions on how to play as her once you've won.
You know, I really like this game. And while it's not going to change anyone's life or redefine the genre, it is surprisingly decent, especially compared to those other two games. So what do we take away from all of this? If you must play a 5th gen Sailor Moon game, I get this guy. Otherwise, just stick to the Super Famicom. You can do a lot worse than this. Now, originally while writing this review, I had planned to bitch and moan about how there hadn't been a new game released since Various Emotion, save for the odd educational title here and there. Well, to my surprise, they did announce that there will be a new Sailor Moon game coming out. Take a look.
嫌なこと全部好きに変わってあしゃきゃあしゃきゃあしゃきゃあしゃきゃあしゃきゃあしゃきゃ
Great. Yeah, it sure seems that way. Well, next time I'll be talking about a much newer game based on an equally beloved and iconic anime series. See you then. Cat in the frame. Cat in the frame. That was a good take, but there was a cat in the frame. Maybe I'll leave the cat in the frame.
Hey everybody, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video, especially if you got to this point. It's been a long time coming, and this one especially took forever to make. I promise that the ongoing content will take a lot less time, and the video that I promised at the end here will be coming a lot more quickly. So please like the video, subscribe, send it to everybody that you possibly can, get the word out, and please comment all you can. Tell me what you liked, what you didn't like. The only way that I can improve my craft is if you tell me what I'm good at and what I suck at. So every little bit helps. I really do appreciate it. Click on some of these annotations. I know there's not a whole lot on the channel right now, but I'm working to rectify that. Also, I have a link to my Twitter on there, so, follow me, tell me what you think. I just want to hear from you, any way you possibly can. And seriously, guys, thanks a lot.